Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So we have a little bit of a reprieve in the rain today. Last night was absolutely terrible. It was so windy. It was so rainy. We had wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. I was up all night because I was really nervous. We actually lost power and I was nervous about this oak tree. I ended up sleeping on the couch because I just wanted to keep an eye on the oak tree. I don't know what I would have done. I just wanted to make sure that it was okay and make sure that my house and my neighbor's house was going to be okay. There was lightning and thunder. We don't normally get this type of weather here, so this is absolutely crazy. So today it's supposed to be, it's been sprinkling on and off, but it's supposed to be somewhat calm. And then they said the biggest storm of this whole atmospheric river bomb cyclone is supposed to start tonight into tomorrow. So I don't know. I'm nervous. I think everybody's kind of nervous at this point, but I'm just trying to make the best of it. And whenever I have a somewhat dry day, getting out in the garden just to do what I love. So what I'm planning to do today, while there's no rain, is get a head start on my Calla Lily rhizomes. And these Calla Lilies, I am planning to plant back here in my shade garden bed in the corner of my backyard behind my lawn. So in warm climates, Calla Lilies do better in partial sun to partial shade. In cooler climates, they do better in full sun. I am definitely a warm climate, so this north-facing fence that I have right here, I think is going to be a perfect place to end up planting these Calla Lilies. I am going to have a white bench right here. Doesn't look like much right now. Landscape fabric and messy and muddy, but I'm literally not going to clean anything up until this whole atmospheric river is done. And they say it's probably going to last through mid-January. So my garden's just going to be a mess and I'm just not going to worry about it. So I actually have a white bench that my parents gifted me for Christmas. It's from Grandin Road. It's the Ophelia bench and it's so gorgeous. It's in my garage in a box right now and I have to put it together, but it's going to go kind of right there. And then on either side, I have blue and white ceramic pots that I'm going to put a rose standard iceberg rose on either side. So it's going to have these big, like tree-like forms of white blooms. And then I thought having the white Calla Lilies kind of spotted in all around here, I thought would be absolutely gorgeous. I have some Mystic Spire's blue salvia over here, so that's kind of like a purpley addition, and then a whole bunch of different kinds of green that I'm going to do all around as well. And then I'm sure I'll add other things in, but that's kind of my plan at this point. So Calla Lilies, despite the name, are actually not true lilies. They're from the genus Zandetetia, where true lilies are from the genus Lilium. Callas are grown from rhizomes. You can see one right here. And the bumps on the top, can you guys see all those bumps right there? Those are called the eyes, and those are supposed to be planted face up, and the more smooth part is supposed to be face down. They are hardy in zones 8 through 10, and I actually have 2 in my front yard that are thriving. Let me go show you. All right, so here they are right here. Here's 1 and here's 2. And these guys actually came from the same plant. I transplanted this plant from my oak tree garden bed over to my crepe myrtle garden bed, and when I transplanted them, I actually divided the rhizomes and planted some of them back here and some of them back here, and they, oh my goodness, they just love their life in this spot. I was thinking about transplanting these 2 back to my shade garden bed, but I just couldn't bring myself to remove them from this spot. So I'm in zone 9B, so they're perfectly fine to leave out all year round, and they come back each year and they do really, really well in our zone. If you live in a cooler climate than I do, you can either grow them as annuals and just let them die over the winter, or a lot of people actually pull the rhizomes and store them indoors over the winter. So Calla Lilies are actually very similar to dahlias in that you don't want to plant them out into the ground until all danger of frost has passed, and actually the soil temperature has reached 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can't just plant them the day that your last frost day passed. You actually have to measure the soil temperature to make sure that the soil is warm enough for the tubers and for the rhizomes. So I always like to think of Calla Lilies as kind of the same as dahlias. So same thing as dahlias, where you can pull them at the end of the year and store them safely indoors. You can pull calla lily rhizomes and store them safely indoors as well. Now, calla lilies, once you plant them in the ground, they'll usually bloom about 2 to 3 months after they're planted. So say your last frost is March, right? That's close to my last frost. Then you wait until the soil has warmed up to 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So say you're thinking around April, I would say. Then you have to wait 2 to 3 months to get blooms after that. So May, June, maybe July is when you're expecting blooms. So there's a way around it. You can actually speed up the time of planting and getting blooms by planting them in pots indoors, and then that will actually get them growing faster. Then you can transplant them outside once your last frost has passed, and then you will get blooms maybe 1 to 2 months sooner than you would if you just planted them straight outside. So there are lots of different varieties of calla lilies. There are beautiful colored ones, purples and oranges and pinks. There are the classic white one that I love. There are shorter, smaller ones that you can put in pots, and then there are giant ones. And I am so excited about the variety that I got my hands on. I have been looking for it for so long. I was inspired by my neighbors who live down the street on the same side of the street that I do, and they have these absolute giant calla lilies in the front of their yard. Their yard faces north facing, just like my front yard does. And these plants, they're huge. They're taller than I am, and when it blooms, it's taller than Jason is. It's absolutely crazy. So I've had my eye out for these. They're actually really hard to find. I could never find them in a garden center, and even the bulbs are kind of hard to find. But I found them at easytogrowbulbs.com, and they are called Calla Lily Ethiopica White Giant. And they are, let's see, I have my notes here. They are green and white speckled leaves. They get massive 5-foot clumps, arrow-shaped green and white speckled leaves, 6-foot stems with creamy white blooms. And apparently this variety is more cold hardy than average, and you can plant the bulbs in the fall if you want for earlier spring blooms, but I didn't get my bulbs in until it was too late, so now I am planting them in pots. Let's get these guys planted. I have 9 of these rhizomes of the white giant calla lilies right here, so I'm going to put 1 per pot. If you're planting these in the ground, you want to dig a hole about 3 to 4 inches deep and plant them with the eye side up, like I said, and then the smooth side down. Because I'm putting them in pots first, I'm putting them in a big enough pot so that there's enough room for them to grow and for their roots to develop well. They're waiting for me to plant them outside. So I'm just going to make sure that I plant them about 3 to 4 inches deep in this pot. So I'm just going to fill each pot about halfway, just like that. And then this isn't necessary, but I love putting EB Stone bulb food in the soil anytime I'm planting a bulb. It's not, it's not a make or break, but it will give that bulb a little bit of extra food to grow nice and strong. So then I'm just going to take the rhizome and I'm going to place it eye side up, and then I'm going to cover it with, like I said, about 3 to 4 more inches of soil. After I do this, I'm going to water it just the littlest bit. You don't want to water it very much until you see the leaves start coming through, and then you can start watering it a little bit more. If you water it too much before the leaves come, it will actually rot and you might lose your rhizomes. All right, so 1 down. I have 8 more to go. I'm just going to plant them in these terracotta pots, again, 3 to 4 inches deep. Let's get planting. right, so I've got all 9 planted. I'm gonna finish up with watering them in just a little bit. Like I said, you don't wanna water them too much until you start seeing the leafy growth come up through the soil. But you don't wanna keep it a little bit damp. You don't want it to be totally dry. Just water sparingly. So I'm just gonna do about that much, just to get them started growing, get their roots going, and that's pretty much it. This is actually rainwater that I got from my blue barrels, and I need more. I'll go get that. Okay, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then water my camellia while I'm at it. And that is it. So I'm just gonna keep these pots right here in my greenhouse, let them grow. They'll be nice and warm, and the soil temperature will be warm enough for the callas to grow really well, and so they'll be ready to pot out by the time I'm done, or my last frost has passed. My last frost is technically February 28th. Probably I'm gonna wait maybe like another week or 2 after that to plant these out, just to make sure that the soil temperature warms up. I do have to tell you guys, just learn from my mistakes. I think it was 2 years ago, I planted a whole bunch of Calla Lily rhizomes in my crepe myrtle garden bed, kind of around where those other 2 Calla Lilies are. But I made a whole bunch of mistakes with that. One, I planted them too shallow, way too shallow. I think I only did like an inch below the ground. 2, I planted them way too early. I think we had a frost after that, and they all froze and were not happy and were mushy. None of them sprouted. And then 3, I also watered them way too much before the leaves started poking through. So just make sure you're not drowning them. They are susceptible to rot. They are susceptible to frost. Just keep them dry, keep them warm. Wait until the temperature has warmed up if you're going to plant them out in the ground. And then if you want to cheat like I'm doing, plant them in the pots, and then wait until your last frost to plant the whole thing into the ground. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I hope you all have a chance to get into your garden today.